Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untethered.tv. I'm your host and founder, Rob Woodbridge. You know how I love to bring Canadian companies to you because we are very innovative. We're an innovative nation, especially when it comes to mobile. But you know how I even love to bring Ottawa-based companies to you even more because that's my hometown. So we're going to do that today. We're in the middle of a huge snowstorm in Ottawa where we're getting about 20 feet of snow dumped on us at this very moment. But we managed to be able to connect through the great internet over here in Canada to talk about a few things. And one of the things that I really want to touch on with this interview, this episode, is to talk about the intimate relationship between social and mobile and why the integration of social and mobile is so important in all of your strategy. It should be a centerpiece to your strategy, says my guest, Josh Garellek, who is the co-founder, the founder of a company called Arctic Empire, and they are creating something called Bet to Win, and that's where we're going to spend a whole lot of time, a game called Bet to Win. We're going to spend a whole lot of time on that right now. I'm bringing Josh in. Josh, man, dumped with snow, isn't it? Welcome, buddy.
Good. Nice and warm in my home office, not having to worry about trek down this 20 feet of snow, as you call it. So,
well, you know what? For those who don't really know what 20 feet of snow looks like, it's not really 20 feet. It's like maybe a foot and a half of snow that's fallen. But it's enough, man, to when you open your doors in the morning, it's like when you get over that first feeling of like absolute beauty, right? It's like, oh man, it is so beautiful, white, everything. It wipes away all the crap that you see. But then you realize that you got to shovel that. And kind of 90 minutes into that.
I already did that this morning.
Oh, that's the price you pay for being Canadian. We are a hardy bunch, I tell you. So Josh, welcome, man. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Really, really do, especially because we are in the same city and there is a lot of talent in this same city. So
appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Well, we've been trying to do this for quite a while, and I'm glad we got to do this. But first, before I want to give you the center stage here. I want you to talk about what it is that you are doing. Arctic Empire. I want you to talk about the structure of that company, and then we're going to talk about Bet to Win in a few minutes. But talk to me about Arctic Empire. Your guys there, and you got a good team.
Yeah, so Arctic Empire, we've scaled down a little bit. We're about 7 people now in the company, in the beautiful downtown Ottawa part of the Byward Market. And the company is about 2.5 years old now. And we started off building off some large social simulators for Facebook. And through the process, we realized that, mobile is the direction we want to go. It is the future, it is the present, it is the now. And it was something that we made a decision to jump heavily into. And at the moment, we have three of our own products out on the market, along with doing some contract works on the side for some other clients. And really, everything is for us is the mobile platforms right now. Predominantly iOS. We do work for Android and other platforms, but we're considered. I like to consider experts in the iOS platform. And so like I said, we have three products out on the market. We have probably about 3 or 4 in the go right now, which is may not be the smartest thing, but we're working in the new year. It's going to be heavily about closing off these projects that we're working on and really focusing heavily on the mobile and social aspects. And our slogan is mobile social games. So that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Tell me, so you started off doing. You said you were doing what? Analytics or deep dives into data from Facebook? What were you doing there?
No, we actually started off building a game called Cha-Ching, and that's actually still in development, but it was a very large social simulator for Facebook. And it was kind of the idea behind it was we were tired of having so many different types of games. Like you had to come in, you wanted to play a farm, you had to play Farmville. If you wanted to play a bowling alley, you had to download another game. If you wanted to play a restaurant, you had to download another game. So we kind of came up with this concept. It's like, well, it's all about entrepreneurship. You're the entrepreneur. You come into the game, and you have a choice to start one of 6 different types of stores or businesses, or 10 businesses, or 12, and however many we wanted to kind of put in there. And it kind of allowed for that social aspect and an experience of just playing one game, and you can have a bowling alley, you can have a farm, you can have a greenhouse, you can have a restaurant, you can have a clothing store. And this was the time that all these, Sims were coming out on the Facebook platform. And then there's a deep play on education. So how you educate yourself in the game affects the gameplay differently. You were able to sell your stores to other people, actual in real time, auction off goods that you have accumulated throughout the game. It was just, long story short, we went really big, really fast. So we've kind of scaled that back a little bit. We're still working on it. Switched it off, so now we'll be able to work on mobile platforms along with Facebook. So yeah, it was pretty heavy. And then once we had set all that up, we decided, okay, we really want to jump into the mobile side, and we launched our first game in a month and a half. Launched it with free app a day, and we got just under 200,000 downloads.
Say that again. You got into apps, and then you how did you manage to get 200,000 downloads?
We launched our application with a service called Free App a Day. So we launched it as a paid app for 99 cents, and then through a service called Free App a Day, they have a platform where they push out your application to millions and millions of users. So we did something like this. It was a marketing plan, and the idea at the time is that you get a lot of downloads, and you go really peak, and then when you go back to paid, it kind of doesn't stay right there, but kind of because you're so high up in the charts that people see it, that people would then pay for it. Sadly, it wasn't the case, and it didn't really work. And I'm sure if you speak to a number of other developers who've used the service, they're not seeing the results that they would think that they're going to get.
We got to dive into this because so what was the app? Describe the app.
The application was a game called Forest Frenzy. It was pretty simple. You're an environmentalist that was there to protect the forest from lumberjacks and robots and things that were going to come and try to cut down the forest. So it was an endless shooter, I guess you would say. So you're sitting there in your tree with a trusty slingshot, and all these different characters that were coming there to cut down the forest. We had really nice art, really high-end graphics for the time at mobile. This was a couple of years ago already, and it was it probably, looking back, we probably should have done this as a free-to-play model. It would have probably done very well, but again, free-to-play was so new and it was so groundbreaking that the model was, okay, let's try a 99-cent download. Again, the game was all about an environmentalist. You're sitting in the tree with an acorn, with a slingshot, firing acorns and watermelons and things, and robots and lumberjacks, and it just got harder and harder. And we, integrated game center and leaderboards and achievements, and we went pretty hard on that one. We built it in about a month and a half from the ground up. Game design document, all the graphics, all the programming. Month and a half conception to delivery and out the door.
So what inspired you to use this free game a day service like this, to go out to millions of people? What were you hoping that would happen out of this? Obviously, big sales?
Yeah, well, the idea is, again, as I said before, is you want to hit you get a big spike in traffic, you hit the top rankings or the top chart. I think we were up at 22, 21 in the top free app store. Across the U.S., Canada, most of the world, actually. So we were pretty high up there. And the idea is that you get all this exposure, and they know it's all about free app a day. They talk about it, and they says, okay, for 7 days it's going to be free, and then you turn it off. And the idea is that because you're so high up in the ranks, people will then start to download the application for paid downloads. And we did receive some traction, but it was definitely not what we were expecting or hoping.
Okay, so how? I mean, can you talk some numbers here? This is fascinating because that whole idea of momentum, which is exactly what launching with momentum, which is exactly what the App Store in particularly loves, right? So the algorithm states that as you gain momentum and you move up the charts, you become a new and notable, and you're supposed to end up delaying that cliff that a lot of apps end up going over, right?
Yeah. Well, again, because we launched as a paid app and then we went to free, and then we went back to paid. So you're immediately, as soon as you turn yourself off of the free app, you're taken out of that free app spot in the store. So you're going to paid.
So all that work that you did to get you into that free app in the top 23 in the free apps, as soon as you turn the price back on, that was gone.
It was gone.
Oh, man.
And the idea behind it is that you're supposed to, because you have that momentum going there, and people are talking about it and hearing about it, and you have a couple 100,000 to 1 million downloads, whatever it is, that it would then you would see traction as far as paid. We saw some traction. I don't remember the numbers offhand. This was a couple of years now already, year and a half or whatever. So, but yeah, it was definitely not what we
Brutal.
were or
So what
expecting.
happened after? What happened right after that? So what happened right after that? Like, when you turned your price back on after you had 200,000 downloads of the free version, and then 7 days later you turn your price on. What happens? What happened?
You get pretty much get lost in the fray of the thousands and thousands and thousands of apps that are in and hundreds of thousands of apps that are in the App
What did that
Store.
cost you to do?
I think it was about 3 grand.
3 grand to get out there. You got 200,000 downloads, and
Yeah.
and then it kind of did you make your money back?
I we did about 60% of
Okay,
that spend.
all right.
So
Yeah,
it was
it's
okay.
like I'm not fixating on numbers here. Just that
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people saying, "Listen, we're going to pay for downloads. We're going to get people to do this. We're going to use these kinds of services, even today." And it's interesting to hear about this thing that you shoot out like a cannon, and then you kind of drop like a cannon. Now, what did you do with those 200,000 people that were playing the game? It gets turned off for them, doesn't it?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't. So they still play the game as long as they still have it. At the time, we had put in on our servers that every time people would open the application, also we integrated obviously analytics at the time, Google Analytics. So we have the data, we still have the stats, and we were using App Annie as well. And you really, it's pretty amazing. You see the just the huge spike, and then it just completely just goes flat, and it's kind of it's like depressing,
It is. Well, it's the trough of despair, the mobile trough of despair,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people go through that process of building that game up so that the arc goes like this, and then for the launch, and then the next day, it's post
Yeah.
launch or post app launch depression. Ultimately, is what
Yeah.
happens. But okay, so you have that data, the 200,000 people. They don't have to give you email addresses, so
No, no, it was at the time. So the idea behind that was okay. Now we got 200,000 people across our network. Sadly, because the App Store changes so quickly and higher quality games came out, you know, people don't keep the games on their app on their phones very long. So we were a bit late to the market with our next title. So we had kind of lost a lot of that traction from the first title. But for us, that was our first game. Overall, it didn't cost us a lot of money to make. It was really quick, really out the door. Um, if I had to put a number on it, I think we spent 5 grand on the total investment of the game. Granted, it was our time and everything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But it was a good experience, and for $5,000, the learning experience that you gain from that launch, it's priceless.
And I just it really was priceless, and I'm amazed. It just shows that there is a value in this. If you can incorporate something like this into your strategy effectively, I think it's very tough when you reach that kind of momentum when you are in the top 25 in the United States and Canada for a free app, and then you turn that off in hope, right? But for a free app, and then in today's app economy, where most of the monetization happens inside of that app, it's always free, and you can see how this could benefit you. And what would you do differently? Would you use those services again today? And what would you do differently?
I probably would not use the service again. Um, Again, if I had the insight and going back, I probably would have launched Forest Frenzy as a free to play
Yeah.
model and had a variety of upgrades to purchase new weapons or new ammos or things like that, or new assets. So I think the game would have done a lot better. But that's hindsight, right? So
Well, that's what we're here to talk about is hindsight, man. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
it's lessons learned. And like, have you ever had another app that has done 200,000 downloads like that?
No, we had Galaxy Express is sitting at about 80,000 right now, and then Burger Joint across Android and iOS is probably sitting at about 80,000, also 80, 100,000 downloads right
And what
now.
I mean, think about this. Like, those are staggering numbers, right? Like, just in general, those are staggering numbers. 200,000 is a staggering number. 80,000 to 100,000 people playing this game, or people who have taken the time to download this game. I mean, that's staggering. Compared to the 4 people that listen to this podcast, right? So,
I hope it's a little more than
yeah,
that.
I'm joking, but you know what I mean. Like, we take these numbers for granted, and they're huge numbers. But what has led to the success of this? I mean, these games that are at 80 and 100,000 downloads, are they free? This freemium model where there's pay to play inside, or how have you turned the revenue on those guys?
No, so what we did is actually our second title, Galaxy Express. We actually tried every model to date,
I love
and
that.
Bet to Win, which we'll talk about shortly, is actually going to be our first free-to-play model. And then we have a larger title called Offset Tax, which has also been in development for a number of months. Really cool play on you're the new guy in the office, and everyone's trying to come and pawn off work towards you. So you build these towers. It's a tower defense genre, tower defense game. So you build towers out of office equipment to wreak havoc on those coworkers that are trying to come and piss you off, essentially. So, so all our newest titles that are coming out are all free to play. So going back to Galaxy Express, we launched that again. Also, was a 99-cent download, or I think it was 1.99 download. Didn't do that well, so we launched it free, which we got a lot of downloads. We gave the first 30 levels for free with an in-app purchase of 99 cents for another, I think, 75 levels. It didn't really work that well either. Then we relaunched it again. And we gave it away for free completely, but if you want to progress through the game a little faster, you can then unlock all the levels and just play whatever you want. So again, didn't go as well as we would have liked, but again, another learning experience.
Talk about that, because like as you go through, just so people, you guys who are watching or listening, this is completely not what we decided we were going to talk about. We are on a completely different tangent. Josh is not even prepared for these questions, but hey, that's why we do these things. We find these little stories. And Josh, if you get uncomfortable about this line of questioning, I'm sorry, but we're going to go down this anyways.
Yeah, I'm sure
you just have to hang up on me at some point.
Yeah.
But so, you've tried all of these things, and I think that mobile anything right now is experimenting, right? Like, that's what it is. It's experimentation. I got a hypothesis. I'm going to do this. We're gonna bring in that data. We're going to test it. We're going to see what happens on the outside, and then we're going to adjust. And you did that with your first game, 200,000 downloads. Not great revenue, but at least it gave you some insight. What have you learned from Galaxy Express? What have you learned from these kind of initiatives that you've tried, or tests that you've tried? Have you moved the needle in your knowledge?
At this point, I would not release a paid game unless it's a $6.99, $9.99,
Why?
$19.99.
That's a great observation, but why is that? Instead of a nuisance fee of a 99 or $1.99, what's the difference? What's the psychological difference?
People don't look at 99-cent games as value anymore. It's pretty sad. It's less than a cup of coffee. I can't get my friends to download, like I'll pay you the dollar back. Like, come on,
Yep.
But it's and it's not just me. Like, I've talked to so many developers nowadays, and like, you don't see a lot of indie games that are being released as 99 cents or $1.99 anymore, unless they have a really large following, unless they have a really large network, someone like a Plants vs Zombies, who can still charge $2.99 and they're still getting it. But you're not seeing a lot of 99 cents to $1.99 downloads. Like, if you go on the Android Google Play market right now, you're seeing games from Gameloft and Glue Mobile and EA that are all coming out. They're $6.99 titles or $9.99 titles.
So there's got to be a reason for that.
The industry, the market has shifted, and they don't look at the 99 cents titles as quality games anymore. You're getting into that AAA quality on mobile because the phones and the technology are gotten so good that you can now release games that are 500, 600 megabyte downloads, and even with a patch that's even larger, and they're huge. They're 3D graphics, and they're beautifully designed games, and they work on these mobile titles. So it's now getting into, there's a perception that's changed in people's minds that when you get into that higher price point of $6.99, you're immediately getting a better value versus, all right, 99 cents. I don't know, this is not really worth my time. I'm gonna go right to the $6.99 or $9.99 title.
Goes against everybody's thought, right? Like you're trying to, you're trying to play in that what am I trying to say here? It goes against everybody's thought because you're trying to play in that low friction buying mode, right? Where it's like, it's only 99 cents. It's a no-brainer decision. It's a candy bar, an impulse buy at a grocery store, right? And that's what the 99-cent theory was, or $1.99, is that, yeah, you're right, it's less than a cup of coffee. Like, people spend $4 on a caramel macchiato at Starbucks, but they won't spend 99 cents on an app that has taken 100 hours of development time, right? It's a skewed value system, but...
And then when they do download it, they bash it too. So and even like free games, like you're giving away a game for free, and I just wanted to kind of jump onto the free side of things, is that, people spend hundreds and thousands of hours building these titles from scratch, and they're giving it to you for free. I think that it's really, like, I'm not a big rater. I don't go in and I don't really rate a lot of games unless I really feel that I can give it a quality rating, because I know that development takes time and people put hard work into it. And as much as people say, oh, people don't read ratings, that's bullshit. I'm sorry to say, but it's not true. It plays a huge factor.
It does. It does. And if you don't think that, you're kind of an idiot, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, it's there's this shift that's happened where developers nowadays are giving away like their entire game for free, and that's kind of the direction we've gone. Is that here's your game for free, but if you want to increase your ammo or weapons or content or avatars or progression. Now the biggest thing is time management. It's all about progression. It's like, sure, you can play the game as much as you want for free, but it's going to take you 10 times longer than it could if you paid $3, right?
So is that work? Does that really? Is that effective? What you're doing is you're selling, it's in-app purchases, you're selling micropayments. Maybe you're going to get 3 times or 4 times the value of the game if you sold it for 99 cents. You might get $3 or $4 out of this. But are people actually buying in-game with your games right now?
Oh, well, we don't have any, like I said, we don't have any free-to-play models. The newest ones that were coming out do. There is a psychology behind it, and it's figuring out the mechanics and the psychology behind at what point do you turn on that time management component, or at what point do you hit the user with, okay, thank you for playing this game, you can keep going, but how do you get that 99 cents or $2 out of that user? Because that's what people are spending nowadays on mobile games. I mean, you're not doing $10, $20, $30 transactions in these mobile games. They're microtransactions of $1 to $2, $3. I mean, obviously you have the whales that will go out and spend $25, $30, $100, $500. I think even in the online poker games now, the mobile poker games, which we're also kind of going into a little bit, people go out and spend $500 on 100 million virtual coins, and it's just because people look at value. I've always said that, you look at Halo, for example. Halo comes out, Halo 4 just came out, and you buy the collector's edition for $100. And obviously there's a really cool online component, but the guys who just buy this game because they're Halo fans, they rip through this game in 24 hours. And they spend $100 for it. But people look at other gamers who are moms at 35 or whatever it is, and they'll play a Farmville, and they'll spend $30 over a 6-month period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entertainment, right?
Yeah, but you can't buck this. Like, what mobile has done for gaming, and what iTunes and the App Store have done for gaming has really changed the way that we look and the way that we spend and the way we perceive the value of the effort that goes into development. And I'm not talking like I benefit as a consumer is that, when my kids want to play a game, I know that I can go and find a free game that will be just enough because their attention span is this small, and I know that it'll be just enough for free to get them through that 15 minutes that I need of silence, right? So it's parenting, right? The iPad is parenting, Parent 2.0. But then you hear of these massive games like Halo, like Call of Duty, right? That are smashing entertainment records, and they're not charging you 99 cents, or they're not giving the game away for free and then charging you upgrades and pieces throughout the lifetime of your gameplay. They're saying,
Well,
no,
it's actually EA. FIFA's doing it now. You're gonna have to pay $60 for FIFA, and then if you want to buy Manchester United's jersey or
right.
this or that, it's gonna be microtransactions. So you're actually starting to see that shift where you're gonna see $60 AAA titles with additional add-ons and
But
microtransactions.
they're trying to get more money out of you, right? So they're still charging that $60 because that's the perceived value of that game. And Halo's charging $100 for the Uber version of it, or the gold version of it. But
Yeah.
so why is it that mobile games, they diminish their value by saying I'm going to charge even $6.99 for a game, which is crazy because you can have the same immersive gameplay experience on a tablet and an iPhone as you can on a console. So why is there such a different opinion about the types of games that can charge $60 versus the mobile games, and even
Well,
like on a DS?
Development cycles are a lot shorter than you take something like Assassin's Creed or Halo, which is takes years to potentially develop. Yep. Where mobile titles are not generally as long, and they can be done in much smaller teams. There's different tools now with Unity that automatically export to a variety of different platforms, so you can hit a number of platforms really quickly should you have a good development team. Most of these guys have engines that they're working off of, so development time is cut in half, and also you're getting it to a larger consumer. It's console gaming is, there's a certain type of individual who does console gaming, where mobile gaming, there's how many devices out there? Billions and billions of devices. And I think by 2014, every person in the world will have a mobile device. Yeah. That's a huge market. It's a massive market.
Well, I think that you know what it's like. Like I think game developers are like the new waiter, right? And I don't mean this in a bad way. It's like you said it earlier. Is that I know what went into the development of that game. I understand the pain. That's why I'm going to leave a great comment or a 5-star. Or I'm going to pay the $1.99 or the 99 cents to support these guys because it is an awesome game. It's like if you're a waiter and you go out for dinner, you tip well, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's the same. Maybe it's a
That's how I did that throughout my university days. I did it in the food service, so definitely, if I get good service, I give a nice tip to the individual.
And it's the same in the gaming space, right? You understand the lines of code and the complexity that went into building it. It's like web developers do the same thing. They go onto the websites that they love, and they're like, "How did they do that? Let's pull up the source code. Let's try to figure this out. Congratulations, you did a great job," right? And I just find that the race to zero is what we're on right now. It's very hard to be competitive in this. And you've got corner cases. Like I leave out the cut the ropes, the Angry Birds, all of those kind of things that are one-in-a-lifetime lottery wins, right? That took a lot of effort to get there. But, there are a lot of indie games that are out there that I've played that are awesome on an iPad, better than a Nintendo DS or a handheld device experience. And I can't believe that they've only charged me 99 cents for this. It's crazy to me. Like, what's the threshold? $10 I would pay for this. That's 10 times. They're leaving $9 of revenue on the table. So that must be frustrating from a developer standpoint.
Well, again, like I said, I think there's a perception of going from 99 cents to $6.99. It's hard to get people to pay the 99 cents anymore. They look at it as it's not worth it when I can go into the free games category and find 10 of the same games, most likely. That's what it comes down to. It's like, how many Angry Bird clones are there? There's thousands of them. Yep. Thousands of them. Yeah. But yet, Angry Birds, again, Angry Birds is Angry Birds. It's a one in, when people ask, oh, why is Angry Birds so popular? I'm like, there's so many factors. It was also their 52nd title. It was the fact that they were been in the industry so long, and it was luck. It was just they were the early adopters, and it comes down to that.
It's winning a lottery. That's what that was.
Winning the lottery. It is. It's 100% winning the lottery.
And it's like, and they're building a good brand around it. I've spent more on Angry Birds paraphernalia, games, stuffies, plush toys, stickers, cards.
Amusement park coming up too. So.
Exactly. Like, I bought into the whole Rio thing. I refuse to buy Angry Birds Star Wars simply because I cannot believe, well, you can, but that's a total sellout. And I choose to remember Star Wars like I did when I was a child. But so you take all these lessons, Josh, really, because this is far deeper than I wanted to go into these kind of conversations. But it's fascinating because, like, you're in the middle of doing this, and you've been testing so many different ways over the last couple of years to make money in this space. Because ultimately, what are you doing this for if you're not going to make money, right? Am I right?
Going for the gray hairs.
Exactly. It's like, it's not easy, despite what everybody thinks. It's not easy building a mobile game company. It is not easy, and sometimes I'll wager that it's not even fun, right?
There's times where it's pretty hectic for sure. Take for example, Bet to Win right now. We're going through an Apple QA process, and there's this feedback coming back, and it's just you're kind of pulling out your hair, and you're like, okay, what am I gonna do at this point?
That's when you start, who do I write money? Who do I write a check to? Like, can we just
yeah,
clear
that's
this
right,
up?
right?
Well, I know, but that's all of this experience that you guys have gone through leads up to this idea, which is Bet to Win. I mean, you've tested a whole bunch of different things. You've tested revenue models, and you've tested marketing models, and you've tested all of these things, and kind of you land on Bet to Win, which is I guess the perfect social mashup for betting between friends. Is that a good way to on a mobile version?
You hit the nail on the head. It's exactly what it is. It comes down to, and I don't really call this a game. I would call it more of an entertainment app. Okay, it's actually in the entertainment category because there's gamified mechanics and components to certain things, but outside of betting with your friends, there's not much else to the application, and it is taking the oldest human nature component that happens, the competitiveness that you're thrown into from the time you're born, with your competing for attention from your parents, your brothers and sisters. Look at me, mommy, look what I can do, and look what Billy can't, and blah blah blah.
That never ends, just so you know, right?
It never ends, right? And it's between friends, it's family, business, technology, gaming, everything. Sports is like the biggest example. So what we did is we came up with saying, taking those frivolous bets you make with your friends late at night at the bar, and it's your buddy throws out a ridiculous stat about Apple. He's like, oh, they're going to make $700 trillion, and you kind of you have to call them on that. You have to. And now you finally have a way to do it with Bet to Win. And it's a gamified and socialized mechanic of betting. And you log into the app. It's all tied through Facebook. You have to log in through Facebook, and you have to bet your friends on Facebook. So that was kind of also the idea, is that here we created all these games that you were playing by yourself, right? There was no multiplayer component. And this is an asynchronous style, peer-to-peer gaming mechanic. It's like, if I want to use this app, I got to bet somebody else, and they then have to download the application to, again, complete the action of the bet. So it's kind of forcing downloads, which was kind of the idea. So, I want to bet you, Rob, right? But you don't have the app, so I notify you, on your Facebook wall or on a private message, hey, you got to download this app. I want to get in on a bet with you. So we're driving downloads. So I think we're going to get quite a few downloads. The question is whether the app is sticky enough for users to come back on a daily basis to keep betting with each other.
Why do you think people need something like this? Like, is it just because, is it your experience? People have told you? Did you go out and do some research on this? Is it a hunch?
I think there's all of the above. Like, definitely, it's something that I've spoken to about with a number of friends and family members, and just I have a group of buddies, and we're constantly just back and forth bantering on different topics. So, and always, and those three words it's just, I bet you. They always come out of my mouth, whether it's sports, entertainment, everything. It's always there. So, like, why can't there be a way to actually track these bets and tie something to it? So we tied a virtual currency model to it. So you can bet for virtual currency. And of course, there's a personal ante, which we're not legal in any way. We're not, we're not tracking that, what you guys do. If you want to bet real money, you bet real money. That's none of our business. And then going back to the social mechanic of what we talked about before, is that what's the point of just betting me and you, Rob? Is like, you kind of want to get that out to the world and see, show everyone that, and again, it's all driving that competitiveness. It's like, I'm better than Rob at betting, right? So you post that to Facebook and Twitter, and you actually get your friends and you pull them in to the conversation around the bet that you've created. which then again could spawn off into more bets and saying, "Oh, this person's wrong," and someone made a comment here, and that whole area. So there's definitely a lot research that I've gone put into this. I focus tested this with a number of people. Everyone that I've spoken to absolutely loves the idea. So again, going back to, is the app sticky enough though for getting people to come back on a regular basis to create those bets?
So this is completely tied into Facebook. So you have to have a Facebook account, and you're betting your Facebook friends. So there's two pieces there that authenticate the user at this point. Any of the other games that you've done that are expressly tied in to social networks, like, because you've had some good success with 80,000 or 100,000 downloads outside of your first game with 200,000 downloads. I mean, have those been tied in socially? Have you experimented with these things?
So Burger Joint is tied to, on Android platform, is tied to Papaya.
Yep.
We did a publishing deal with Papaya, and so there is a social mechanic of, but that's not Facebook. It's their personal social platform. They got about 50 to 60 million users across their network. So
good enough.
So definitely there's.
That's a good enough number.
Yeah, good enough. So again, it was, and we're still getting steadily. We're getting about 100, 110 downloads a day on the Android side of things. So about 3,000 or so downloads a month.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
I want to come back. I'm going to come back to Bet to Win in a second. But I mean, it strikes me you're still getting traction with that game. How are you turning that into revenue? Are you? Is that just a lead gen?
Yeah, we were generating some revenue on that. That was a smaller title. It's this idea of like a puzzler, a Tetris meets Bejeweled type of thing, but you're making burgers. So that's all ad platform revenue or advertising revenue. So we have some banner advertisements and interstitials after a user gets an end game screen. So it's just purely, at the moment, it's just purely ad revenue.
That's it, just ad revenue.
Just ad revenue on it.
So do you ever think about this? This is interesting because you said you have so many projects that are going on, coming in 2013. Like, you've got so many things going on the go at the same time. Have you ever considered that you've got kind of an audience of 80 to 100,000 people with two different games? And have you ever thought, like, okay, so what are the ways that we can turn the revenue on? Just not through advertising, but we've already got an established audience with these guys. They're playing it.
Well, I wouldn't say that there's 80 to 100,000 users across our network. Yeah. You have to look at what are the active users, and then obviously we still know how many people have the game on their phone. So it's definitely not 80 to 100,000, but we got there's a good chunk of individuals, and we've launched through the Bet to Win launch. We've actually launched an update on all four of other titles. With the first thing that a user comes and sees is like, hey, check out our new app. It's called Bet to Win. And this actually kind of goes into something that we want to do with Bet to Win, is actually build out a full-blown SDK for it that other game developers can incorporate into games. So it's like you're playing Angry Birds, for example, and you get 9,000 points on level 27. So why not be able to bet your friend right within the game using Bet to Win's SDK that you can't beat my score? And this can be done on gaming, can be done on other apps, it can be
sports
done on
apps, anything. Yeah.
Sports, anything. So again, that's that's 2013, probably Q3, Q4 if we get there. But
it's like, is that that's an interesting play, because opening up an API and getting it integrated into games makes you the nervous system for that part of the game, and what's the competitive landscape for that right now, and then how do you turn that into revenue? I'm focused on revenue. Like, I'm fixated,
Yeah, I understand. Focused on revenue. So at the moment, I don't have all the details on how we're going to kind of turn on the revenue for that. There are a couple of different revenue plays for Bet to Win. One is a virtual currency model, obviously. Yep. Second is, we have a couple of offer walls with Tapjoy, so you can get free coins to continue playing if you fill out offers. And then phase 2 on it is the analytics, is the data that we're going to be accumulating, and actually being able to, and again, open this up across our network and getting a lot of users, is then going to brands and advertisers and other companies and saying, hey, guess what, guys, we got, I don't know, I'm going to throw out an arbitrary number, we've got 1 million active users across our network. Why not create a sponsored bet So UFC, for example, is the perfect audience. It's like, George St. Pierre is going to fight Anderson Silva. So, 5% of their population probably bet. So they get all that stuff from Vegas lines and sports lines. But what about all the 95% of other fan base that they can't tap into because they're not bettors? Or they wouldn't bet on real money, but they would if it was virtual currency, or if it was just a way to kind of get in on the action. So now all of a sudden UFC comes in, they put a sponsored advertisement, which I'm happy to send you, by the way, Robin. I could show you all the graphics for it. It's really cool. And you see a sponsored bet saying, this and this date, live on pay-per-view, George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva. Who do you bet on? All of a sudden, UFC's got all this data that they were never able to access before. And you take it for Starbucks, they're coming out with a new brand of coffee or a new line. So what's your favorite? What would you... And emotion, like betting is emotional. People get really involved in their bets and they don't want to lose. They don't like to lose. So you're getting real, honest, true to God feedback. And it could be almost instantaneous too, is that we can push a global bet or a sponsor bet through our server side instantaneously whenever it wants to, a push notification. It gets sent down to all the users, and if they feel like this is something they want to get in on, they're jumping in on it, and you get instant, real live, real data in real time.
I love thinking about the future of mobile and how it influences decision making, and this is really one of those things, right? Is that you've got to see a time when an app that like Bet to Win, an open API or an SDK that goes into many games or many other applications, and take the UFC, for example, because it's so compelling, right? Is that because they do bet on the UFC in Vegas, right? They have a Vegas line on every card. So, but that's always just based on known voters or known bettors, as you say, right? Just like, we're in Canada, the Toronto Blue Jays have made some huge acquisitions in baseball this offseason, and they've gone from like a 500 to 1 odds of winning the World Series to a 12 to 1 odds of winning the World Series, and that's just among known bettors. Now, if you open this up and say, listen, who do you think is going to win the World Series? Or who are you going to bet on winning the World Series as a result of using a Bet to Win SDK or API? You're now going to influence that Vegas line as a result, because you're targeting, even if you get 5% of the non-betting population that like that sport that would interact with it, you're now influencing more, or you're getting more data points than Vegas does. What does that do?
Well, it's a ton of, we were kind of thinking the idea is like, being able to show, the fans and showing voters and people who are involved in the sports, showing what other people outside of Vegas lines think. And like, these are people who are passionate sports fans. Like, I'm a hockey fan. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, born and bred, love the Habs. And it's, I have my opinions, but I'm sure that, other people who will bet on them or other things have different opinions. And, I don't bet on hockey. Like, I'm not a big guy that doesn't bet on hockey. I love playing poker. I love blackjack. I love casinos and all that kind of stuff. But
it's not emotional.
But sports is like, I love the Habs. Like, that's my thing. Like, hockey's my thing. But if there's polls, I'll jump in on a poll and I'll give my opinion on a poll. But it doesn't cost me anything. But I want to get my opinion heard. So I think everyone can kind of tie into this, Bet to Win SDK is giving their feedback and their opinions, and which are emotional, which they truly believe in. And that data is, huge for the franchises, for the sports in general, for entertainment. Take, for example, the Grammys are on, who are the nominations. Like the Grammys can sponsor, like do a sponsored bet, and they can get instant feedback on like, hey, look at look at all these people. Like, we have hundreds of thousands of people that think otherwise than who's actually going to win. Like, that's kind of like, that's a lot of data comparison that can really, benefit or even kind of skew some votes, I guess, down the road. We really wanted this out for the presidential elections and really kind of get people going on that, because there's been a lot of problems with the polling, and this year there was a lot of articles that came out that things weren't done correctly because they weren't, on the Romney side of things, they weren't polling cell phone users. I don't know if you know that or not, but so all the polls were completely skewed and their data was wrong. But like, now all of a sudden, if you take like something like a Bet to Win, these are all you're an instant target to mobile users and mobile individuals. So now all of a sudden those data points are not so skewed anymore.
What about this perception around betting, man? Like that betting is not good. Maybe the terminology is not as good as it should be, but bet has a connotation, and there's an issue with addiction and around betting. Like, do you ever consider that? Listen, as we go through this bet to win piece, that we're going to have to shift the way that we talk about this. It's no longer bet to win. It's like opinion to win or something. Watered down simply because there are going to be a bunch of people that say, look, you know what, we can't do this. We can't do this on the Grammys. We can't do this on UFC because it promotes the idea of betting, and it's an addictive, for some people, it's an addictive challenge to get away from betting.
I think, you definitely, brought up a good point there. I don't think changing the name is going to do it because it's still the concept of betting. And the idea behind it is we're taking a human action that people do on a regular basis and we're gamifying it and socializing it. And it clearly states in our terms of service that there is no money transaction being just, changing hands. Do we go into the real betting world down the road with something like a Bettable out in the UK? That's yet to be seen. There's definitely going to be brands and companies that will not want to touch it because it's in the betting space. For example, we wanted to put achievements into this application and use a service called KitMe. KitMe is a real world or real reward systems for achievements. You get real rewards for achievements, but a lot of their brands won't touch it because it is in the gambling space, and they won't do this for any poker games or anything like that. But there are, for every company that won't want to touch it, I can't guarantee you, but there's probably a couple other companies that would. And you're probably getting into the bit of the racier things like tobacco companies and beer companies and alcohol and some of the stuff there.
Other vices.
Sorry?
All the other vices.
Yeah, all the other vices. But I think that with the legislation being pushed so hard to being changed with mobile gambling and mobile, social gambling being, pushed to change and all that legislation, I think that companies it'll be stupid for them not to jump on this bandwagon.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt their bottom line down the road. That's just my personal opinion.
Tough. It's tough because it's a social. I mean, the same way that you feel about the Canadians, it's an emotional reaction that people have to something like this, right? Which is, I never bet. I don't bet. I mean, I work too hard for my money to go and spend it on something that I know very little about. But I'm passionate about the sports, and I could never bet on sports because I'm too emotionally tied to it, and I don't have time to play poker, and quite frankly, I'm not smart. So these are the things that happen when you these are the signs that you shouldn't bet, right? I'm an ex-smoker. I got an addictive personality. Whatever it is, I just shouldn't do it, right? Yeah. So but the thing about betting is that it is sticky. It's inherently one of the stickiest things when you get into it and you get into that groove. It is a sticky thing. It's the reason why people wear Depends to the casinos, right? They can't leave their slot machines, because of that, the lure to win. It inherently betting is sticky. So, coming back to bet to win, you've mentioned a couple of times here, and this is, I think, where we'll finish off with a little discussion around this, is that how do you make this sticky beyond, you have to change the personality. Like, I don't bet, but you want me to use your app because it's a way that I can do casual betting among friends. So you're changing that behavior, but then how do you get me to keep using it? And what are your theories around this? I know you haven't launched yet, but what are your theories around how you're going to get people to start using this deeper and more often every day, instigating and taking bets?
Well, I think that's actually a great question, but I think one of the areas that will make a big difference is going to be the version 2. So version 1 was our MVP. It was really just the concept of log into Facebook. You have got 500 coins when you come in. You can bet with your friends, personalities, banter, and kind of brag on Facebook and Twitter. That's it. Version 1, very simple MVP product, 8-week blitz project, out the door. Version 2, we actually gave it already a very different look, a sleeker, sexier design, so people will kind of be tied to that a little bit more. And then what we've put in there is trending bets. So now people can also put their bets public to the world and let people see, and that's a huge data also. You're then, the first screen you're going to come into is kind of like your news feed, but it'll be a news feed for bets. So you can kind of see what's trending already. And then my biggest thing is, I think the biggest seller on this will be a video and picture upload. is to validate bets with your friends using a video and picture capture. And if you look at, take a look at Instagram's been in the news the last 3-4 days. They're changing the service, who owns the privacy and who owns the rights and all that kind of stuff. There's another one called Snapchat or something that, for 7 seconds you can see like your friend's racy pictures, and then it deletes off the server and they're eliminated. So you're seeing this and video and picture is so big that I think tying in, a betting concept with validation through video and picture capture will be huge. I think it's fun, it's exciting, it's entertaining, and it's something I think anyone who uses a mobile device can really jump on.
So that's not just taunting, is it? So what you're talking about is actually validating the outcome of a bet?
Yes. Well, we have a validation system we've already created. So right now there's only it goes back and forth a couple of times, and if there's a disagreement, the bet gets nullified and money goes back into everyone's account because it was our MVP. So for the second version is to validation is going to actually be like, I'll bet you, Rob, I can get a 6-pack faster than you can, so I can take a picture of my abs and upload it to the app and validate it. So now all of a sudden you've got history in picture and video of your bets with your friends, which you can access at any time, which I think is really cool. I think will really drive people to really want to use the app more.
And there's got to be some kind of viral nature to this. So tying it into Facebook, you did this for a reason, obviously, right? So, were you trying to leverage, for that stickiness, where you're trying to leverage the Facebook wall and sharing?
Definitely sharing. Definitely, again, it's tied into Facebook and Twitter. But it's the idea behind it was the peer-to-peer, is to be able to bet with your friends and to get your friends involved, so that it all of a sudden becomes a social mechanic. I have this idea. My team's not really crazy about it, but actually bringing in a third party to validate your bet. So for example, I'll bet you, Rob, but hey, I'm going to bring Bruce Firestone in, and he's going to validate our bet. So all of a sudden you brought another person in to the bet that we've created. So Facebook is huge. Everyone uses it. If they say they don't use it, they're liars. They have a private account somewhere. And I think that we're so tied to it. Everyone's got the mobile devices and on the phones, and you're constantly checking, and people are using Facebook Messenger now. So it only made sense to tie it to Facebook. And if you kind of jump on that whole peer-to-peer, that you look at something like Draw Something or Snap Pop or Song Pop, that's all peer-to-peer through Facebook. So it's kind of jumping on that peer-to-peer Facebook bandwagon as well.
It's true. And any time where you involve many other people in the game at the time, and there was a game, and always a state. This is probably a big statement here when we think about this, is that there was a game that I played that I paid money for because you upgraded it, and now of course I can't remember the name of it. So as I wish I had some play music here that we're going through it. It's Letterpress. That's what it was. Letterpress.
That's Letterpress. Okay. Yeah.
That was I didn't have to know the person. I just signed in, and I basically started a game, and it went out and found somebody, and it brought it up, and it was an addictive game for a day, right? It was I had 30 games going at the same time. I'm like, oh my god, this is great. And then the next day I didn't play any, and I haven't played one since, right? I haven't updated it. Stickiness is so important, and I think the big thing that happened as a result of that was there was no peace, that friendship piece. I didn't challenge. I could through Game Center, but it was too complicated, and my friends aren't on Game Center. But I think that a tie-in through Facebook, maybe they've done it, I don't know, since I've last played it, but a tie-in through Facebook, like we're talking about here, is that social play, is that I can play a friend in Australia, and it's it's a connection, another connection point. So maybe that'll be going, you can benefit from that. And obviously you're thinking this through. What's the biggest lesson you've learned here? There's got to be some takeaway from this that,
from Bet to Win, for example?
Yeah, I think that overall here, Josh, because Bet to Win has not launched yet, and maybe by the time we're watching this, it will have launched. You're watching this, it will have launched, and just check it out. But so it's too early right now. I think the lesson there is, compliance with Apple is very important, right? They hold the gatekeys. But
they actually called us because they wanted to know what users can do with the virtual currency. Oh, wow. And I said they can continue betting. They can't, other than that, it's
convert to cash.
No, you can't convert cash. No, you can't pull any money out. So that I think was a concern on Apple's end, but we took care of that.
Should have just said it. Hey, listen, it goes to porn.
Yeah, right.
That would have it would have sealed your fate right there. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, but from all of the last 2 years in the exercises that you've gone through, the pricing models, the marketing models, the ties into social, like is there something that sticks out for you right now that is like, you know what, I would do this or I wouldn't do this?
I think the direction that we're going now in the last couple of weeks, I've actually changed our strategy, or sorry, the last couple of months, I would say, is we want to fail faster. And especially in mobile, like, we want to get, like I said, Bet to Win was an 8-week blitz project. It was actually supposed to be 4 weeks, and every time, and that's another thing. Any developer who says it's going to be a certain time, double it. It's just inevitable, what happens. So, and this is also kind of something that a lot of indie gamers are kind of trying to do now is get an MVP out, and if it fails, it fails. Move on to something else. Don't waste your time on a dead project. We've had some projects that, it's 6, 7, 8 months development cycles. I'm like, God, we're not even out yet. It's like, we can't keep doing this. So now I want, an 8 to 10 week development cycle out the door. And I think that's really the direction we're going to go is try to really, if we do fail, let's fail faster so that we can get some more products out in the market.
And yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Is that, and I think that it's a validation, right? You can do a whole bunch of testing, but if you're going to put 8 or 9 months into a game, you would better know your market, because look how quickly it shifts in 3 months, man. Like, if you're not in those cycles, it's difficult to be relevant with an idea that you had probably 6 months ago. Then you've ideated enough time to be able to write some code, and you develop for 9 months. Like, you're a year and a half into this, and by the way, that idea is no longer relevant anymore, and we've seen that.
And your code base is old, and Facebook's, like, even for us, the way we're using Facebook's API and SDK right now, like, they've changed. Like, in the last last month or so, they changed, and we're using an older version of their API right now, which we're working on getting their newer one in. But it kind of changed so fast that you kind of have to adapt to it. And every day, I mean, if you follow the tech news on TechCrunch or Tech Vibes or whatever it is, there's so many things that are coming out daily. It happens so fast that you have to, like I said, you have to fail faster. Yeah. If you're going to be in this space, you got to get product out the door as quick as possible. Focus test it. Word of where, I guess you say, or word of advice: do not ask your friends to beta test any of your apps.
There's a piece.
It's a waste of time. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, there's going to be a couple of really close friends that'll do it for you, and I thank a couple of them who have, but the rest of them are, yeah, sure, but you don't get it's. If you're going to do it, get a company, hire some outside people, spend a couple of bucks, go to a coffee shop. Some of the best advice is, I actually went in to a bridgehead right around the corner. I said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee, and you give me your feedback on this app? And I showed them Bet to Win.
Nice.
It cost me a couple of bucks, I think, whatever, $15, $20. I bought people coffee, and then they gave me honest feedback.
You bought people coffee. I love that. See, there you go. There's like a bootstrapping effort right there. Go into a Starbucks. I mean, God, it's full of people. Don't ask your friends, simply because they're going to tell you they like it. They're not going to be honest with you, or they're not even going to be engaged with it enough because you're friends, right? Like, you need somebody who's going to tell you the truth.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, Josh, where can we send people to find more information about you, about your products, about everything?
So we have Arctic Empire. You go to www.arcticempire.ca. We actually just launched a new version of our website. It's
beautiful.
So we're kind of excited about that. We're going to make a big announcement. And for Bet to Win, it's actually www.bettow.in. So Bet to Win, just .in. And we're actually, we're going to be doing a viral video campaign. We create a video for the app. For every share that you get your friends to watch, you'll get entered into a draw to win an iPad mini. So share to everyone if you possibly. We're tracking this with a platform called UPick. They're based out of Vancouver, another really cool tech Canadian company. So share the video, get your friends to download it, and just start betting.
Awesome. Josh, I can't tell you, this is not what we agreed on. This is absolutely not what we agreed on, but it's fascinating, and I think that the lessons that people are going to learn are a good combination. Is that how to do something, how not to do something. Learn from the lessons, and this is what we always say. I always say it on Tether for all of these episodes that I've done is learn from other people's lessons. Don't copy what they're doing, because that is a travesty. If you're here to copy people, Go away. It's not going to work. Different circumstances, different ideas, different mental state, different financial state. Learn from the mistakes. Learn from the things that have succeeded. And, Josh is probably giving you 15 things here that have worked or haven't worked that you can modify in order to be able to get things done. So, man, all I can say is thank you, Josh, for doing this. Really appreciate it. And I'll speak on my audience's behalf because they will thank you as well as they listen to this. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Rob.
We've been speaking with Josh Garellek from Arctic Empire and Bet to Win. ArcticEmpire.ca and Bet to Win. This is tough. It's BET. I always have to look at the URL. BETTOW.in. BETTOW.in is Bet to Win. Good luck in getting that launched. Hopefully by the time we're watching this or you're watching this, it's out there in the App Store and you are able to bet to win. Josh, thanks, man.
Thank you, Rob.
Everybody, we'll see you next time on Untether.tv. Thanks for watching.